We haven't talked a ton about the Karl-Anthony Towns trade. We talked about it briefly on Monday, Keefe.
Yes, in the old grab bag.
It was, top of the bag.
Yep.
On Monday. I don't love the trade for New York. And I wouldn't feel more threatened by the Knicks if I were the Celtics. In fact, I'd feel less threatened. I think the Knicks are a less scary team. Not that I had them really threatening the Celtics in the first place, but I think the Knicks took a half step in the wrong direction with this trade. I would still say they're the biggest threat to the Celtics in the East, but I think it just got a little easier on the Celtics. I don't know how you feel about the landscape in the East. I think we're all picking the Celtics to get out of the conference, probably to win again.
Yep.
But I think this trade just made it easier on them.
First of all, I love a big NBA trade. You get them all the time. And right before the season starts, this one came out of nowhere. I had no clue that these guys were even being shopped around. So Julius Randle, who has been an all-NBA player. I think he's a flawed player, and I'm not sure exactly. He's been second-team All-NBA a few times, but I don't consider him anywhere near a top 10 player. But maybe that's a me thing. Karl-Anthony Towns.
I don't think anyone considers him a top 10 player, FYI.
But he's saying, like, if you're All-NBA second team, just the deductive reasoning would be like he's probably in the mix at least for top 10.
Yeah, the Knicks have been good. I mean, so you tend to
reward those guys.
You
but like
tend to
Brunson's
reward
way better
the
than
best
him.
player on a good team, but you're right. Brunson is way better. True.
So I think Karl-Anthony Towns, as he figured out as his career has gone on, he can't be the number one at all. And I guess you could argue, depending on how much you like Bridges, is he even the number two on the Knicks? So I actually I think the Knicks, if somebody had to win the trade, I would say the Knicks won the trade. I'm surprised the T-Wolves.
Well, they got more talented.
That's what I'm saying. So I'll take
They got
that.
more talented.
I'll take that.
But are they better?
I think Towns going to be more consistent than Randall. I kind of put DiVincenzo to the side. Like, all right, he's a useful player, but I think you can get somebody to do those minutes.
He's a bench shooter. You can find a bench shooter.
I thought the T-Wolves, because they surprised people last year with how far they got, I thought they'd run it back again because they made that deal with Gobert, and I'm like, I don't really like the Gobert deal for them. But they were pretty good, and Anthony Edwards is on the rise. I thought you would have kept those guys together for another year instead of shaking it up. I think Randall might ball hog it a little too much for Edwards. That could either work well or horribly. So, like, I think the Knicks actually won the trade. I think they're a little bit better, but I had them at least a tier down below the Celtics regardless.
Me too.
So they're slightly better. The Bridges addition made them a little bit better, obviously. So they're better than they were last year. Plus, they were really hurt last year, so you never really saw a full-on Knicks series.
I get why the Knicks made the trade in some ways because I'm normally a talent over everything guy. Like, if you can go get we were talking about it earlier today with Devontae Adams. Like, is he a diva? Sure. And is your locker room already a problem? Yeah. But if you can get a talented player, I'm willing to look the other way. The Knicks were a rare team that felt like they were more than the sum of their parts. Like,
well, they're doing that Nova thing. And
the
they got rid
weird
of one
Nova
of those
Knicks
guys.
thing, right. And so I kind of bought into that. And it's not like I thought they were going to take down the Celtics, but I did feel.
They could win the Big East. If they play their cards right.
They play it at the Garden, so I would hope. But, like, I still think the Knicks are the second best team in the East, but now I think they're closer to Philly than they were a couple of days ago, and I think they're further away from the Celtics. And I thought if the Knicks were going to get anything right, they had a big card up their sleeve. I said this all offseason. Randall is a trade chip, and now they've used that trade chip, and I don't love Towns. He's soft.
So they're not as tough, but he's a much better shooter, right? So
definitely a better
big
shooter.
Guy chucking from three, because Randall will still he thinks he's a good shooter.
Oh, he'll shoot a lot.
He'll shoot plenty from the outside, which I think you can kind of drive yourself nuts. Like whereas now, I think if all the attention's on Brunson,
Towns can go stand in the corner. Brunson can penetrate and find him. Yes, no, he will.
Yeah.
He will.
So I don't know. I'm not like scared or anything like that, or be like, oh my god, watch out for the Knicks.
Are the Knicks the second best team in the East?
So I like Cleveland.
Oh,
I'm a big Donovan Mitchell guy.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Philly. You're not even saying Philly.
I like Cleveland. No, Philly, I feel like with Embiid's
I'm not telling you what to say. I'm
you
surprised.
You dare talk for me.
You're supposed to say Philly, kid.
No, Philly. So I like Paul George more than anybody else in the East Coast. Everybody hates Paul George. I think he's a scrub.
Yeah, this is why I thought you were pro Philly.
No, but I think he's getting towards the end of it. Like, he is not the same Paul George as he once was. I mean, how many big threes can Joel Embiid be a part of that all lose in the second round? So I'm good. I think they're not going to be a threat. I think
I won't believe in Philly until they do it. That's not fair to them, I guess. But I want until they actually do it, meaning knock off the Celtics. I'm never going to believe in that team.
I agree. I think there's just something standing in the way, and it might be Embiid. Like, he might be the reason why they're there, but then also the reason why like they can't get through it, whatever it is. So I put them as like, that's going to be a fun matchup to watch, and it's star powers. I like Maxey. He's a really good player, but I think it would be more likely, and I don't think anybody's beaten the Celtics in the East, but it might in the next couple of years, one of these teams that's more on the rise. And so if you have Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, and Darius Garland, like I like that. I love Mitchell. So I think that would be a group, if they're healthy, would have the best chance of anybody. Because we haven't even mentioned Milwaukee.
I was just going to say, are we all overlooking Milwaukee?
Maybe. Because like I thought, I was like, oh, I can't wait for Celtics-Bucks Eastern Conference Finals next year. And then you're like, oh, the Bucks are horrible.
Yeah.
Then they're like, oh, let's get Doc Rivers. I was like, oh, forget it. Like, they have no chance.
That is a big strike against them.
But Middleton seems like he is
cooked.
Washed.
Yep.
And then Giannis is still a top 5 player in the league. I love Lillard, but that did not seem like a great combo. Like, they definitely have to regret moving on from Drew Holiday.
Another team we haven't mentioned, Indy, who was competitive with the Celtics last year, but I still don't fully buy. I think Terp is higher on them than maybe we are.
Yeah, I mean, Halliburton's a fun player. I know he was, like, benched on he didn't play on the Team USA, but he's really, really good. Like, he's a fun player to watch.
And he's another injured player the Celtics didn't have to face
Correct.
in the playoffs. But here's the real story to me. The Celtics should still win the East going away. Like, I think the Knicks got a little worse. I don't believe in Philly. I don't believe in Milwaukee. Yeah, Cleveland's an interesting team. Indy was competitive last year. They should still win the East going away. And even though these teams got better than a year ago in the case of the Bridges trade for New York.
I think New York and Philly both got a little bit better, but there was a gap there.
Well, but again, New York got better than last year based on the Bridges trade, but I think they've gotten worse in the last couple of days based on the Towns trade, my opinion.
But don't you think just from last year's team, and I know they were hurt at the end, but just Bridges and Towns over Randall and DiVincenzo, like, I think they're better, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you at least give them that.
But I would rather have Bridges and Randall than Bridges and Towns, I guess is what I'm saying. But they won 50 games last year, and they were the number 2 seed in the East.
Right.
There's no real excuse for the Celtics. It's all about them. It's all about them. Is Jaylen Brown hungry? Is Tatum? I know everybody says they are. Let's actually see if they are. Do they take a step back because defending title teams don't win the last 5 years in the NBA? Does the sale get in the way for the Celtics? Does Porzingis factor into it in any way? His health? Those are the questions. It's not about New York. It's not about Philly or Cleveland or Indy or anybody else. Milwaukee, the East is still wide open, and it's still there for the taking for the Celtics.
Yeah, I think this is the year that they break that streak. The NBA does with the back-to-back champions. I think this is the best version of the Celtics. Last year was the first year. The Celtics have been knocking on the door for a while, but last year was the first year with Holiday and Porzingis. So I think they're the best team. And if you also look at the previous 5, I think they're the best suited to win back-to-back. You know, Denver, I thought Denver was at least going to get back last year, and they didn't. So that's sort of like a surprise. But the other ones are, you know, Kawhi Leonard on the Raptors, LeBron in the bubble, Durant with the Warriors. Like, there's sort of more obvious, or Curry, I mean, with the Warriors, where they really weren't a great team anymore. That was sort of their last gasp.
Yeah.
But no, this is they're primed to win back-to-back.